All right. So welcome everybody. My name's Coach Dan Fitzgerald. Welcome to 26.2 Questions Answered. We're here on Facebook Live also, so we're out there in the world. We'll have people asking questions there. But this event and a lot of the things we do here are informed by the people who we coach. So we spend a lot of Thursday evenings across the street at the bar talking about marathon issues after our workouts, and I had a lot of questions, and I heard a lot of good things about the people on our teams and their ability to answer those questions. So I wanted to take an opportunity here to create an event that will allow you to have a lot of those questions that you may have answered. So some of the simple ones, some of the hard ones, and reach out to people who I know and love who have tons of experience out there on the Boston course and all over the place. So I'll introduce them. First we have Mary McGinty. Mary is a consultant by day and a fierce endurance athlete by most of the other times. She's competed in 4 half Ironmans, 3 half Ironmans, and is a 13-time marathoner, and has completed the, yes, you can sit down, okay. Has run Boston and then followed that up with Tennessee the week after 2 times. So she's put in many marathons and then decided to tack on another one right after Boston. So you can see how your legs feel on that Tuesday. It can be done. So Mary brings really a wealth of experience to our community and was one of the catalysts to this event, and because of the great advice she's dispensed through the team, which I just heard about the other day. So welcome, Mary. Ellen London Crane is a former BAA runner, now Heartbreaker. We're happy to have her. She has run a 3:11, so she's in that 3:10. She's in that.
Every minute counts.
Every minute does certainly count. So she's in that qualify for Boston by over 20 minutes category. So she can sign up on the first day. She has that luxury and has a wealth of knowledge around the marathon and run Boston. How many times in particular?
This year will be 5.
This year will be 5 Bostons. So we're excited to have Ellen here, and then Dr. Howard Weinstein is the founder of the Mass General Marathon team, pediatric. He's also the chief of the pediatric oncology unit at Mass General Hospital and has run Boston 25 times. So he has. So he has seen that course more times than I have yet. By a lot, so by many of us combined. So we're really excited to have Howard here dispensing his wisdom and learnings on the course. So first, we'll just say we're in week 15 of my training programs. These can be the dark days. It's snowing outside. We're covered in snow and ice now, but we still have marathon training to do. The Boston Marathon is coming. So I'm just going to open this first one up and just say, how are you feeling right now in week 15? Say Mary first.
I'm ready for a nap. Hungry and tired, kind of sore. I just want to be on the foam roller. But excited because we only have to do 20 miles one more time. Well, twice. It's a big day.
Right. That doesn't count though. That one's fun.
That would be right. Agreed. The last part never counts.
Okay. Ellen, how are you feeling?
I definitely hear the hungry part. I'm starting to wake up at 3 in the morning and have to have a bowl of cereal because I can't go back to sleep unless I've eaten something. And definitely, tired. I think one thing that we find is if there's any sort of injury you had over the past 18 months, this is the week that it's going to show itself. The more tired you get and the deeper you get into your training. So I've had a couple of little twinges that have kind of come out of nowhere, and it's like, okay, that's just something that was kind of on the back burner, and now we're all super tired, and here it is again. So yeah, just trying to stay focused, and I have lasagna in my bag over there. Life goals.
Travel with lasagna. You guys writing that down? Howard, how are you feeling right now?
A little bit of a problem. So I was doing great until about 2 weeks ago, and that beautiful Saturday, if you remember, it was 65 degrees. I was supposed to be doing a 16-mile run, and I had done 15 the week before and felt really good. I said, this is going to really be a great marathon. And a couple miles into the run, I started having some pain in my inner thigh. And I said, that's really weird, because I've injured every moving part of my body for years. And I stopped and I stretched. And I started to think about what Dan always says, be smart if you have pain, don't keep going. So I started to go again. 3 or 4 more blocks. Pain was still there. Stretched one more time and tried to run a couple more blocks. And I said, no, it's not going to work. Walked back home and had an MRI the next day. And I have a partial tear of that muscle, but it's really not bad. It's healed. I've been doing a lot of PT, and I started to run again a little bit. My orthopedic surgeon said, you'll need 3 to 6 weeks, and I said, I don't have 3 to 6 weeks. So I'm actually feeling pretty good, and I'm going to be out at Hopkinton without any question. I'm crossing the finish line.
I like it. So this is definitely, I think, the hardest part of the training program, as you talked about. You're hungry, we're tired now. That's all part of the deal. What do you have what do you focus on to stay motivated through that period? I'll open this one to Mary first. What keeps you heading out there on nights like this? Or
my latest thing is today is not the day to fail.
I like that.
Every day when the alarm goes off, I just want to keep sleeping. But today's not a good day to fail.
I like that. That's every day.
Every day.
I like that. Ellen, how about you? In the dark days of March, you just had a clock switch, but it's, in terms of marathon training,
Yeah,
it can be
it
dark.
definitely can be brutal. I think for me, it's focusing on the things that I can control. I think this late into the training, you start to feel like, I'm tired all the time, I'm hungry all the time, my body, a lot of mornings I feel like I've been hit by a truck. And I think focusing on those things that are within your control kind of takes out some of the other variables. So, I can make sure that I'm getting to bed at 9:30 at night and getting enough sleep. I can make sure that I'm eating a ton of carbs during the day. I can make sure that I'm walking around everywhere with my water bottle. Those are things that are within my control, and so it kind of gives me a sense of taking the power back. And even if there are some other things going on that I can't control every day, it makes me feel better to feel like those are manageable things that I can be doing to keep myself on track, and the other stuff will fall into place.
Howard, you have a real injury now. That's so. How do you know you'll be ready that day?
Well, I feel good. I've been doing a lot of cross training, and I'm actually thinking maybe I'll even be better than I was last year, because I didn't do that much cross training last year, and it's always hard to get in, the amount of mileage that I'd like to. And so my inspiration is a little different. So as a pediatric cancer doc, every day I'm working with kids who have cancer and are getting intensive therapy. And I have some patients who, will say, "Hey doc, how's your training going? Are you ready? Are you ready for the marathon? I can't wait to see you at mile 20." And that, for me, that's very, very personal, and that'll overcome any injury.
That's some deep motivation. So Howard is the founder of the Mass General Mass General Hospital Children's Cancer Center Marathon Team. Is that the right way to say it?
Right. That's close enough.
Close enough. The pediatric cancer team is Howard's creation. So his team is raising funds for his unit. So there's definitely a deep connection there. And at mile 20 on the Boston Marathon course, a lot of the kids who can make it to that part of the course are there to cheer on runners, some of whom are paired up with runners on the team. So it's a really special connection that Howard's team and the MGH team feel for sure on the day. So it's some good motivation. Ellen, this question's for you. We at Heartbreaker practice last week, we had a bit of a hamstring issue.
Some dark times. Some dark times.
And have you dealt with something like that before? And how do you deal with it? So some context, we were at Heartbreaker practice on a Tuesday night. The workout was 10 by 800 meters, and Ellen is relatively new to the team. So past 6 months, maybe 4 months?
Yeah.
So I was excited to see her on the track and go through this first time I'd see her do 10 by 800 meters, and she had a bit of a hamstring issue that day. And this is a tough time in the training program, but you have a lot of experience. So what goes through your mind when that happens, and then how do you bounce back?
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating anytime something like that comes up, and I think this is something where I really relied on past experience. I had a bad injury about a year ago where I tore a muscle in my calf, and ended up having to sit out for almost a year, and it was a really sad time. So I think that as much as it really sucked to have to go through that, I think you learn that it's just not worth it on a day when you're not feeling great, you know, you're tired, or I just seen my doctor the day before and was feeling a little beat up from treatment there. Just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should. And just because I could go out to the track with my teammates and I could do the first 5 did not mean that the next 5 were going to happen. And I think, you know, slowing down, dropping into a different pace group, listening to my body is not something I would have done 2 years ago. But I think, you know, this time it made all the difference that 3 days later I was back at it and training hard again and fine, instead of a few years ago when I pushed it and then, you know, had to sit out for a year. So I think the first part is just remembering, yeah, just because you can technically go out and do it, take the rest. Doesn't mean that you should do it on that day. And then I also learned that, you know, you need to ask for help, and sometimes you will need help, and that's okay. I mean, you guys are obviously a super tough group of people to take something like this on. And I think sometimes we feel like, you know, well, I don't want to be the one to raise my hand and ask, or I don't want to bother that person, they're probably busy, or they've done this before, or, you know, whatever it is. I think that our running community is our best resource for training, but also for help. So I just got in touch with some of my running friends. It was like, guys, I feel like shit. I feel like such a loser. Like, how do you get through this? What do you do? And the things that I heard back from them were so helpful. Just different things that they did to build their confidence and get their mental toughness back. And then I ended up meeting a teammate for a run a few days later, and we just left our watches at home and just went for a cruise on the Charles. And by the time we got back, it was like, we both felt better. So, you know, definitely don't be afraid to ask for help, even if you feel like you should know it all. Nobody does. So.
Cool. How many first-time marathoners do we have in the room attempting first one? Great.
Woo, yeah.
Very nice.
Joy.
That's exciting. All first-time Boston runners? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What's your favorite part of the Boston Marathon? We'll start with you, Howard.
My favorite part. I love hanging out in Hopkinton. And sort of getting nervous and watching, you know, having my heart rate go, you know, from 60 to 120, and you know, hanging out with our teammates and sort of all getting prepared. And then I guess probably mile 20 is really my favorite part of the marathon, because for a couple reasons. One, I have family, friends, and I'm a patient partner there waiting. But also, I know I can almost see the Boston skyline, you know, and I know I'm going to get to Boston once I get past mile 20. So that's really an amazing charging station for me.
Yeah, when you need it.
Yes. So I pass Heartbreak Hill at
Right,
the
it's
store.
the story. I know it's the story. Secondarily, your family. I mean. Ellen, favorite part of Boston?
I think my favorite part of Boston is just that, you know, especially when you're training around here, you know what everybody's gone through. You're running in the snow, running at weird times, you know, all the weird injury stuff and the snacks and the gorilla and, you know, all this stuff. And I think it's just thinking about, like, I always have this really amazing moment at the start where you're thinking about everyone is having their big day on the same day, like at the same time, which is pretty amazing. Like, the fact that all these people trained through these crazy conditions and they stuck it out, and, you know, they got up early on Saturday and Sunday mornings when their friends had been out late the night before. Maybe they were out late the night before too. They still got out early and did it and got it in. And so I think just everyone having their big moment, no matter who you are or, you know, which wave you're in, which corral you're in, that's a really powerful thing. Everyone is, like, no other sport is really like that too. Yeah.
Favorite part of Boston, Marion?
Well, repeat. I think that the starting line is so humbling. I was not a marathoner and ended up trying it to check it off the list, and then it went well, so I'm still doing it. But being at the starting line is just the most humbling experience, to think, wow, I earned my place here in this magnificent historical group of people, and it's really, really cool. The second part is, it's not lost on me that I'm the only one holding a harpoon here. So the other part that is my favorite is the party after. I think I run so I can have a new outfit and throw a party.
We can deliver beers to the other panelists if we need one. And my favorite part, I think, was a bit of a surprise, was the bus ride out, because it's one of the only times where, you know, I felt like I could really see the scale of what was going on. Like, all the buses heading west, and and you're quiet. You know, I didn't travel with any friends. I don't have any. I was alone. I was leaving early, and
Also too fast. His
yeah.
wife was in a bus 2 hours later. 17
um,
corrals back.
yeah. So it was just a quiet moment where I could really decompress and see just. It was also the year after the bombing, so you could just see everything heading west, and knowing we're all running back on foot together was a really cool moment and totally unexpected. You know, there are things you certainly expect. Like I wanted to get to mile 20. That's where my store is. That's where my family is also. So getting to mile 20 was important, and then seeing the finish line is a pretty special moment where I was there on a mission for a time goal, and I didn't expect to be that enthusiastic about seeing the finish line. But you can see in the photos that definitely my face changed, and then I didn't remember feeling that, but it was just a great thing when you're just like, I'm here. I just have to get right there. So yeah, it's definitely a really special race.
So the bus ride to Hopkinton is pretty intimidating. You go, oh my God, we've been on the bus 40 minutes. I have to run back to Boston.
Every second you're running back. You know, every second you're driving that way, you're also going.
Buses don't go back.
Right. One-way bus ticket. So a lot of people have time goals. So I'll throw this one to Ellen. When you have a time goal, how do you know you're ready to run that time? Is there something that informs your confidence or informs you that, like, I'm ready to hit that time? Is it your longest long run? Is it a workout? Is it something else?
I think that last longest long run is definitely helpful, but I mean, keep in mind you have so many miles on your legs at that point. Like, you're actually probably not going to feel fabulous for that run. But I think I just kind of gauge my general energy after that longest long run, and if I'm feeling like, okay, I'm tired because I just ran 22 or 23 miles, but I feel like I can go to brunch and, you know, go on with my normal life afterwards, I'm probably ready. I think I can also tell a lot during the taper, which obviously this goes without saying, but the taper is so important, you guys. Do not skip it. Do not try to cram in extra miles. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. But I think once you start getting that bouncy feeling in your legs and start getting really excited and really antsy, that's a good indicator too. But I also think, you know, time goals are important. They keep us motivated, but it's really important to go into the race itself, I think, with a few goals, because due to circumstances sometimes out of your control, that may just not be your outing, and that's okay. So I usually try to set it up as like, the A goal is crushing my time goal. I'll be so happy with that. But maybe the B goal is, okay, maybe I don't get my time goal, but I PR and I'll feel good about that too. And maybe my C goal is, you know, I'm gonna high five 5 people, and I'm gonna actually see my mom because I miss her a lot of the time. So, you know, just kind of setting it up that way where, like, you cannot fail when you have a few different goals going into race day, and maybe you won't get the first one, and that's fine. But, you know, A, B, or C, I'll take it, and it'll be a good outing.
So just checking in on Facebook Live, you can ask questions there. We'll have those bumped in by these guys. The reason I asked that question of Ellen is there are a lot of workouts out there that people think will determine what their marathon time might be. It's not that simple a formula. It's definitely more of a feeling, and I did a panel like this with Dathan Ritzenhein and Shalane and Wesley Career, the winner in 2012, and I asked that question of Dathan, you know, what's that workout that you do that lets you know you're ready? And his answer was very similar. You just know. It's the sum of all of the work together that really gets you the marathon you want. It's never one run, one workout. So I think that's an important thing to know. That it's never just a single workout or run.
You always say trust the process.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly. One of the things that I noticed running Boston, and it may seem really obvious, but it didn't strike me until it happened, was when I was at mile 9, I said to myself, I'm really tired. It's 9 miles. And I think there's that expectation that you shouldn't feel anything until mile 20 or, you know, mile 15. But when you ran 9 miles, you ran 9 miles. That's a full day workout for many people every other day, you know. So I think it's important to note that there will be times that you'll feel that in the course. You know, we all are waiting and knowing that 20 is going to be hard, and after 20 is going to be harder. So how do you prepare yourself mentally for those sort of darkest moments that show up in the marathon? And how do you talk yourself out of those hardest parts? Well, let's marry that one.
Marry math.
Mm.
Marry math is the first, third, doesn't matter because it's the first third, so you might as well just close your eyes and get it done. And the last part doesn't matter because it's the last part, and you're going to do it anyway. So all you really have to worry about is the middle part. And when you get in the middle part, well, you're in it and you're doing it, so you might as well just do it. And it's over.
That gets you through?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
There are
I
all
like it.
kinds of math games. Yeah.
I'm similar in my training where it's, you know, okay, if it's 10 by 100 or something, you know, when you just start thinking, okay, that's 20% done.
Yeah. And the last 20% doesn't count. So
Right.
basically I'm 40% done, and 40 is basically 50.
It goes on.
That's not how my math works, but I like that. I like that. Alan, how about you? How do you talk yourself out of the dark times?
Yeah,
when
well,
they-
I
when
suck
they
at
occur?
math. So I can tell you the strategy I do use, although I do like the.
I'm not sure that was sound math that I was doing.
Okay.
That's the difference between a consultant and a medium.
I know, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think again, coming back to controlling the things that you can control, you know, you get, and I've had that happen where you get less than a third of the way in and you're like, this feels harder than it should. I'm tired or I'm hungry, which is like, you're seeing a trend here. But I think, you know, controlling the variables you can control. So, okay, fine, I have a blister on my right foot and now I'm carrying it around with me for the next 2 hours. That sucks. But I can be really smart as I go into the next water stop and I'm going to go for 1 water and 1 Gatorade. I'm going to have half of a goo. That's all stuff that's within my control. I can make sure I stay hydrated. I can make sure that I listen to the crowd. I can make sure that I lean into the hills. You know, all these little things that are very well within your control. And I think that, for me anyway, that gives me the sense of kind of managing the situation. Like, I can't deal with that other stuff. That's fine. But these things are within my control. So I'm going to do those and focus on them really, really hard. And then hopefully get through the end.
Nice. Howard?
I tend to play some mental games and divide the marathon into
That's
smaller races, and so that helps me. I also, when I get to an area where I've been doing a lot of training and I know that area well, I feel, wow, I'm really close to, you know, to an area that I know, and it's not that much farther, and I'll sort of play that game a little bit. And you know, I think those are the main things that I do to sort of get re-energized if
I like
I'm
that.
feeling kind of tired.
Alan, you mentioned blisters. Does anyone have any foot care or blister secrets or toenail stories you want to share? How to help them grow back? How to
Vaseline,
prevent?
just dive into
How to
it.
help prevent toenails from falling off? Has anyone had a toenail issue?
I have 4 right now,
You have 4 toenails?
total.
Wow.
We have 4 that are left.
Yeah, I have 4. But seriously, Vaseline.
Dan can sell you a new pair of shoes.
No,
Half
this
inch longer?
years, yeah, years. Yeah, seriously though, like Vaseline, just
Vaseline?
everywhere.
I've never had a blister from running.
Never had a blister from running.
Ever.
Wow.
Glide.
Glide.
Same thing as
Glide,
Vaseline, yeah, but glide all over your feet before you put your shoes on. No blisters yet.
So glide, socks, shoes.
Glide, socks, shoes.
Okay.
It feels squishy
That's
for a
the
second.
order.
That's the order. Yeah, don't change that at all.
And actually, I think sometimes too, this might just be a superstition, but bear with me. I like to have a different pair of socks that I wear down to the start village or to wherever your race is, or so that I can
That's
change
smart.
into a dry pair of socks like right before. And it just makes me feel like, okay, now I've gone from like hanging out mode, bagel mode, to race mode.
So when do you put the Vaseline on then?
Oh, I bring it with me, girl.
Oh, good, yeah.
Vaseline will
Good.
travel.
Vaseline, socks, shoes.
Oh, yeah. So still the Vaseline. That's a constant. But yeah, I mean, putting on a pair of socks, because you're nervous and like you're, you know, you've been sitting around for a while, and I don't know, I think it helps.
Do you guys have anything that you learned, any prominent lesson? I know it's a while now for my veteran marathoners here, but in your first marathon, something that you took away that you knew you could correct, or something that you wish you knew in your first marathon that you could impart to the first timers?
So if you, don't drink 15 minutes before the marathon, because you're going to have to pee within about another 15 minutes. And in Hopkinton, you'll have to go out into the woods. So
Yeah.
I learned, I stopped drinking at about 45 minutes before
Yeah.
I started the race. Because everyone's so nervous and you're just, gulping Gatorade and water. It's just sort of a nervous reflex. So that was one thing I learned early on.
Right, that's important. Anything else?
I think you did the work. You've already done all the long runs. You've already done 20 or so weeks of training. And so I'm thinking back to standing at the start line in New York, which was my first one. And it was horrifying. Oh my God, 126 miles. How am I gonna do that? Mary math didn't even work. But it wasn't long that I started thinking about, okay, I haven't run 26 miles yet, but you've done the work. So it's trust the process. It's what you say too. Just, you're there and you're gonna survive it. You absolutely are. It's not gonna be comfortable, but you're gonna survive it. So just know that you're gonna get there.
Yeah, and I think be patient with it too. I mean, it's easy to get really jittery and to feel
Hyped
like,
up.
yeah, and hyped
Yeah,
up, and
chill
of course
out.
everybody goes out too fast, and that's a whole nother. But I think just being patient with it and knowing that you're capable of so much more than you probably think you are, which I know sounds really cheesy, but it's true. So if you get into a situation where you're feeling freaked out, like, oh my God, how am I going to keep this pace going for the next 15 miles? If this feels, just give yourself 2 and start there. And I think you'll find that like 2 miles later, you're like, oh, actually, that wasn't so bad. Let's give it another 2, and just kind of settle into your race and just be patient. And the miles will come, and all of a sudden you're at that point at 20, and you're like, it's a 10K. I got this.
10K's never been so hard. But it's only a 10K.
What do you think is the hardest part of the Boston Marathon course in your experience? If it's been, we've all done it multiple times now, so is there a part that's consistently the hardest part? Is there one part that has snuck up on you? Well, I guess I'll ask Howard first. Is there?
So actually, Heartbreak Hill is not the hardest part for me. It's probably mile 17 when you're at the firehouse, and that's a pretty big hill.
Yeah.
Up Comm Ave. The good news is there's tons of spectators. So once you hit Newton all the way to the finish line, it's amazing. No matter what time, whether it's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, people are 10, 12 deep. But for me, that's a tough hill for me, because it's really that's the biggest first uphill
Right.
of the marathon course.
I agree with you on that. Every time I run the Firehouse course, for those of you watching on Facebook, we have a store in Newton at mile 20. We run a course there every week. Every time I run that course, I always am analyzing those 3 hills after the Firehouse and wondering which one's steeper, which one's hardest. Because maybe it's because it's first. It feels harder to me too. But I personally found the hardest part. It was a bit of a bummer. As a Boston College alumni, I was excited to go past BC, but for me the absolute worst part of the marathon by far was coming down Heartbreak in front of Boston College, and I was told my legs would come back when I got to Beacon Street, and they did. Thank God. But I was like, how can I get out of this? This is by far the worst I've ever felt in any run in my entire life. And that was surprising. But I was told by another coach that may be the case, that my legs would come back, and they did. So I found it really important to slow down in those hills. You definitely want to let the hills come to you. That doesn't mean they're easy. And then expect there to be some pain coming down, and then coming out of Cleveland Circle, you'll start to normalize again. Trust your training. What about you guys? Any section?
You know that little blip over 90? It's like not a real hill, you guys. It's so embarrassing.
But is it early? Like after 10, before?
No,
13?
like late.
By-
Is it
before
90 or
you-
93?
95, I think.
95? One of the highways.
Or
You know what I'm talking about, though.
You mean the one before you
There's
make
like a
the
bike
Firehouse?
shop at the bottom.
Fenway.
No.
Oh, Fenway. Oh, that's 90.
Oh.
That's 90. So you're
Yeah.
talking miles.
So I'm
25.
talking like-
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah,
mile
yeah.
25.
See, that's
Yeah.
hard for me.
Yeah. No, that's 90.
Just this little, it's like not even a hill.
As
It's
a
just
water
this-
stop to the top.
Yeah.
24.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's nobody usually on
Nobody.
there because
Nobody.
it's like over the turnpike,
Yeah.
and so it's lonely, and the wind is coming in like all directions, and you're tired, and it feels really significant. And it's funny because I've run it like a million times not on marathon day, and I'm just like, this is such a joke. But I'm like ready to put crampons on, like during the marathon. so steep, I'm gonna die right here. Anyway, just look out for that blip, I'm telling you. You laugh now, but it's no joke.
I think mine's similar. Where did we go? Under Mass Ave, right?
Oh,
Under
and then
Mass
back
Ave.
up.
And then you come back up before you turn right
Like around
on
Conant.
Hereford.
Yeah.
That stupid little hill,
Yeah.
when you come up from going under the bridge, same thing.
Yeah, I know,
It's not even a hill, but
feels
it is
like
bad.
Since we're in that the depths of training now, we haven't hit the 20 miler yet. I'm just gonna ask you each what your approach to the longest long run is. How do you take that run? Is it what's your approach when you head into that one? Mary?
All of the food. Bagels and peanut butter and eggs and everything I could eat first. The run itself, I don't know, there's so many people out there. All the teams are out there and we're all, it's like Boston's little private Boston Marathon. So I just sort of get caught up in the fact that it's our little preview of the show that's to come, which works for a while until like mile 18.
Right. Do you have a goal that you're trying to execute that day, or it's just a 20-mile easy run for you, or
I wouldn't say easy, but the goal is get it done.
just get it done?
Yeah. Prove to myself that I can do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that longest long run for me is really more about focus. I try to keep everything the same as I would on actual race day. So I eat the same thing. I try to wake up around the same time. I'll wear something really similar if the weather cooperates, which who knows. But really just trying to kind of go through the motions of like, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing 3 weeks from now. And then just trying to stay really focused out there too, and kind of visualizing, okay, I'm 6 miles in, here's kind of roughly where I'll be at that point. And then I also, for me mentally, I like to have a really strong finish, so I'm not necessarily totally paying attention to pace while I'm out there, but the last 5K or so, I really want to be hitting a really strong stride. And again, maybe it's just superstition, I don't know. But it makes me feel better to know that, like, okay, my legs are shredded, I have all these miles under them now, but I can still hit this pace, I'm going to be good for race day. And it kind of gives me that check-in that I need to be like, okay, we got this, and now I can head into the taper and just rest and not have to worry about it.
So how relative paces were you running your marathon goal pace for the period up to that, and then you're running faster then, or are you hitting your marathon goal pace for that last 5K? How would you relate it to
I'd
your
say
marathon
I
pace?
try to be like a little bit under my marathon goal pace for the last 5K, and then maybe kind of a little bit over goal pace throughout, because I hear that I probably shouldn't be totally wearing myself out in the longest long run. Thanks, Coach Dan. But yeah, so I give myself, a good kind of 20-second buffer above goal pace for the full long run, and then maybe try to be 15 under for the last 5K. And just mentally, it makes me feel better, assuming it goes well, knowing that, this is the most tired I'm going to be. There isn't the same crowd support out here, and if I can get through that, it's like a little mini workout, I feel good about it.
Cool. Howard?
So it's fun listening to you guys, but that's not at all how I do anything. So for my 20 mile,
Why do we have 3?
my goal is, it's not a time goal, it's to feel good at the end of it and say, well, I think I could tack on another 6.2 miles. And if I, and we always have a little brunch for our team at our house, and if I can, still walk around and have a bagel and some fruit salad or whatever, and say, yeah, that wasn't terrible, no matter how long it took me, I feel really confident in the marathon. But to be honest, there have been some 20-mile runs where I said, my God, I'm not going to be able to do the marathon, and it hasn't translated to that, because I've finished the marathon every time I've started it. So, yep. So if you have a bad 20-mile run, don't give up. It's still money in the bank as far as mileage, and you'll finish Boston.
So a few notes about the longest long run. Did anybody try to run the time on feet run? Anybody in the room try to do that one? Okay, couple, few. Okay. So the reason we have that run in the training plan for those of you who are following that one is Tim Ritchie is an elite runner for Saucony, and he used to work for us and started our Hill Club group out in Newton when we opened that store. And he entered his first marathon, which was the Boston Marathon, in 2012 maybe? It was 2012. Or might have been, 2012 or 2013. I can't remember. It was 2013, I think. Anyway, he had a tough race for him, which was still in the 2:20s, but you know he's very fast and very motivated. But what he found was that when he ran the full distance, it came back and bit him a little bit, because he had only, when he runs 20 miles, it goes by really quickly, and he hadn't had the sensation of being on his feet for as long as he would be on that day. So that run is in there to have that feeling in the legs, that feeling of being on your feet for 3 hours if you're not hitting that in your training already. So that one is designed more for runners that are 3:15 or under, but that's why that run is there, and that's its purpose. And you heard these guys talk about the longest long run, which is coming up, and that in some cases is your third 20 miler. It can be your second 20 miler. For many of you, it'll be the first. And there are many approaches. One is just prove that you can do 20 and know that that week is very hard relative to the week of the marathon. You know that you're not tapered. We're doing hard workouts during the week. You will have run all kinds of different styles and full workload going into that run. So you shouldn't be fresh. That's part of it. You're not going into it fresh, and that's very different than the way that you'll go into the marathon. So you can take it as proof of the fact that you can get to 20 miles and put that in your back pocket, or you can take it as an opportunity to test out your race pace a little bit, warm up for 5 to 10 miles, and then and that can be 30 seconds over your marathon pace, and then try to work down to marathon pace and see if you can do that. And that, if you can hold that for 10 miles, that's a pretty good indicator that you're right on target, because you have to think about what's in the legs that week that won't be there on that race day. What other Boston related things do we have here? Yes, Justin?
We have a question
Facebook
from Facebook.
question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lindsay, it's her first Boston Marathon. She lives in Framingham, and she wants to know if you can get to Athletes Village without taking the bus in. So, logistical question. I don't know if anyone knows where
We recommend reaching out to the BAA for all logistical questions.
we have some non-logistical questions.
It's their race. That's I coach a bunch of teams, and I always say I handle the coaching, but if you have race day questions, they're theirs, and that stuff changes. So definitely read their website. You want the information to come from the people hosting the race.
And Dan wants to know, when attacking the hills in Newton, what should you do with your form and your pace? Should you adjust it at all?
Yes. So do you guys want to handle that one, or you want me to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, lean in, definitely lead with your ankles, and it's really easy to get kind of crunched over, but nice and tall and proud, and just lean into it, and the hills will come to you. I mean, you don't have a choice, like, you're going up. So
yeah, that's exactly the way I would say it. I'd say lean in, and lean from the ankles is what Alan's saying. So you stay tall, stand proud, slow your pace down. So I would definitely not use the word attack. Don't attack the hills. They will win that battle. You definitely want to just relax and let them come to you. So when I made that turn at the firehouse, I said, slow down, slow down, slow down, because what you're doing is you're banking that strength. If you're running a certain pace and that's your goal pace, and you hit the hills and you keep running your goal pace, you're working way harder than that pace to go uphill. So you have to know that and just slow down. Your marathon pace is really just, it's a constant average, right? You're actually almost never running your marathon pace. If you think about what the Boston course looks like, your pace is just the math at the end. It's not what you actually did. If you're running a good Boston, you're matching your effort to the terrain, and that's taking advantage of the downhills and running an effortless pace that's slightly faster than your pace, and then really slowing down and conserving some energy up the hill and letting the hill come to you, and then bringing the leg back after. So I would definitely relax up the hills. When you get to the really close to the top, you can kind of try to accelerate out of it, but generally chill out, let it come to you. We can open the floor up to
One more
questions.
comment on the hill. So sometimes from Heartbreak Hill in Newton, and he always would have a pearl. And one of his pearls that I've really practiced was, he said, Howard, it's much easier to move your arms and your legs. So going up a hill, use this kind of motion. And I said, you're right, it is much easier to move your arms and your legs.
And I think too, especially late in the race where most of the hills come, when you're tired, you might think that you're really pumping your arms, but it probably looks like this, because they're tired too. And so really kind of overdo it, and by overdoing it, you're doing it right, usually.
It's like the
Yeah,
meme.
don't go like this, you know.
Yeah.
Definitely front to back. Definitely front to back. Yeah. It's like that meme where it says, you know, like what I think I look
Yes.
like, what my mom thinks I do. Like, you know, we all think we look tall and perfect, and chances are we're not. So, do you guys have any questions you want to ask the panel or me? Yeah.
Do you have any advice for what to do at Athletes Village? Like, I don't think I start till 11, so I feel like there's a lot of downtime.
If it's a sunny day, don't decide it's a good time to get a suntan, which I've done. I'm really happy with my suntan and dehydrated. Chill out. I think all of our advice all the time is just calm down.
Yeah,
Find a
I'd bring
spot that's comfortable.
They want, like, I think there are a couple of logistical tips, like bring an extra pair of socks if you know if you're there early in the morning and the grass is dewy, like your shoes are going to get wet and then your socks are going to get wet. So having an extra pair of socks that are your junk socks that you can throw away and then put on the fresh ones, I think is a great tip. Another tip that I've heard that I liked was bring a garbage bag to sit on so that you're not like laying down getting wet. Definitely, you know, you can bring clothes that you're going to throw away to stay warm. And
A magazine.
I mean, I brought a second breakfast for the bus ride. You know, I had my breakfast and then I made a second peanut butter sandwich and ate that, I think, on the bus ride. Because there is a lot of time from the time you go to Boston to Hopkinton, wait, then you walk a mile basically to get to the start. You know, there's a lot of downtime and movement. So.
And be sure to get in the bathroom line before you have to pee.
I would get in line right away.
Just like get there and get in the bathroom line. Because it can take a while, and I guarantee by the time it's your turn, you're gonna have to go.
Yeah, I did exactly the same thing. I got there early, like I said, so there wasn't a line when I first got there, and then I looked up and I was like, this line looks like it's getting really long. I'm just gonna get in line, and I'm so glad I did because all of a sudden it's snaking in a way that you've never seen a line snake. And there are 100 porta potties and there are lines, so be ready for that too.
Warm up. Warm up while you're in the athletes.
Warm up.
Did you cover that?
What did you do for warm up?
She asked what to do in the athletes
Oh.
village, so warm up.
Warm up.
Yoga.
Yoga. Yes.
If the Boston Marathon was a professional baseball game, what would your walk-up song be?
Such a good question.
Great question.
Mine would definitely be a country song. I don't know which one.
Oh man.
Put you on the spot, sorry.
No, it's a really good question.
Isn't it Nike Plus that has that thing that's your power song and you push a button and it like play? Yeah, I wish I had that because then I would have an answer.
Say all
I
my
have one
friends.
song that pumps you up, like you listened to right before.
So many good questions.
I'll say I brought my like little iPod, whatever they call it, shuffle, and had it packed in my spy belt, and in case I needed it on the course, and I didn't touch it, didn't use it at all, which surprised me. You know, this is just the experience was very dynamic, and I just enjoyed being a part of it, and didn't want to be in that sort of zone that I was in training often. So it's I didn't use my power songs. Probably would have been LCD Sound System, All My Friends, if it was. I did not use it.
After you're leaving the start, I forget, it's probably a third of a mile outside of the start line. There's a home where they have big speakers on the line, and they're playing the theme from Rocky. That's a cool one. And then another half mile later on the left, you'll hear sort of a country violin band, you know, doing stuff. They're fun. So there's some music all along the way.
Yes.
Like, shipping up to Boston is probably a good class.
I was like, there you go. Good one. There's that one.
I have a question like gear-wise, like when you guys are running, what do you carry or wear?
What you wear is for the weather. It's
Right.
totally dependent on what's happening that day. I carry only what I'm going to eat, and in the last 3 years, I carried my cell phone too. I never did before. That's it. Food and strategically placed things with friends and family along the line, like more Glide,
Nice.
sunscreen,
Yeah.
an extra shirt. I always plant way more stuff than I'm ever gonna. An extra pair of shoes. There's so much planted along the way, and I never take any of it except for more food.
But just knowing it's out there,
Totally.
I think mentally
Yeah.
is like, everything goes wrong. I have a spare of all of the
That's
things
good.
Yeah.
scattered along the course. So.
But you can also miss people because it is really crowded. So I wouldn't something you
Don't
know
bank
you're
on
gonna
it, but
need
Yeah.
have with you, which is really food.
Yeah, I think any sort of removable layers too. I like any sort of sleeve or gloves. Even a couple years ago when it was so hot, I actually started with gloves on just because it kind of kept my circulation going. And you can always peel them off and ditch them, but anything that you wouldn't mind leaving along the course, you know, I think it's, for me anyway, I'd rather be a little bit overheated and then just kind of peel stuff off as I go. Same thing like with the hat, you can always ditch that. You know, yeah.
So, I have a couple of things. I use goo during the run, and one year I made a big mistake, so I used safety pins, and I had 4 goos on my running shorts, and the safety pins were facing inward, and one of them opened. So I almost did an appendectomy, you know. So if you're going to use safety pins, make sure they open out to the front. And then it's a little tricky when you're running to sort of open the safety pin. But as far as clothing, yeah, I usually take more than I need, and then take, you know, throw something away along the course. It's always better to be a little warmer.
Yeah, yeah. It's I think it starts so early. You know, you want to have some extra layers. So I definitely like the arm sleeves. I didn't wear them ever before in my life, and I don't think I've worn them since. But I was happy to have them during the Boston Marathon. I carried just the food, and you know, I had my iPod and I didn't need it, and I carried 1 or 2 extra goos. You know, I like to have 5 in the race, and that's a question I'll hand off to you guys in a second. But
I was gonna say part 2. What do you carry besides like goo, or like the shoes, like the black shoes?
Well, I just brought what I ate, so I brought 6 goos. And I eat 5 during the race, and I had 1, I think, probably in the Athletes Village, and then I had 1 at 5, 10, 14, 18, and 22. And that was all I had on me.
I should eat more goo.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was advice given by a 25 marathoner, so that's...
I'm trying it this year. I just learned something.
That's Ian Nurse, yeah. That's in many of my emails. You should have had that. That's from Ian.
5, 10, 15.
5, 10,
14.
14, 18, 22, so we accelerated it a little bit. Yeah, that's from Ian Nurse of Wellness in Motion, and you know, one of our Heart Rate Studio coaches, his wife Amanda Nurse. She says she takes 4. No, she takes 6, and she's running a 2:40. So I just found out yesterday she takes 6. So.
I'm going to take 22 up.
So you're taking a lot.
I'll win.
You're taking it. You should take it probably more than you think. You know, I think it's okay in training to take 3 in a long run sometimes, even if it's 20, because it's okay to be a little depleted. We're training, but you want to know it works. You know, Nike has that Breaking 2 project. If any of you guys have heard about that, and one of the things that the athletes are struggling with, or that they're talking about, is something that's new for them, is the amount of fluid and fuel that they want to get these athletes to maintain that high level of speed. And all that informs me is that you probably need more than you think. It's not like a 2 snack and done type thing. If you get to mile 17 and you're starving and tanking, or you've heard people tell that story, be informed by that story, because it's not a unique story. Those people aren't special. They just didn't eat well. That's where your body's really going to tank if you're not getting the fuel you need. So what do you guys do for fuel? Or what's your fuel plan on the course?
Also breakfast.
Also breakfast, okay.
So on the course, it's
You
good.
can go all through
Yeah.
breakfast through Hopkins or through Boylston.
So it's usually bagel, almond butter in the morning, low-fat chocolate milk, and as Dan said, you know, taking the bus is like 7 o'clock in the morning out to Hopkinton, and then there's another, if you're in the charity corral, it's another 3 hours. So you want to have probably 2 breakfasts. So
Right.
I repeat the same thing once I'm in Hopkinton, and then I use goo during the race, and about every 5 miles. But now I'm going to do it a little differently. And I never was a believer originally in goo, but I think it does make a difference.
Oh yeah. It has caffeine in it. Caffeine's a known performance enhancer, so use it.
Yeah, I would say kind of same deal in the breakfast. Bagel, peanut butter, honey, double down on that, and then usually 2 bananas too. And that's kind of spaced out from like when I wake up through, you know, an hour and a half before the start probably. Black coffee, can't go without have my coffee in the morning, even on race day. So I'll have like a half a cup at home, and then maybe have a half a cup when I'm there. And then yeah, goose all day. I mean, I probably bring 6 or 7 because I like to have an emergency one. I actually had it happen a couple years ago where I dropped one. It was so devastating. I could not turn around again. No, for so many reasons. But anyway, bring an extra 1 or 2 because you might want it. And just mentally, I find it's helpful as it gets later in the race where you're like, I have plenty of food. But again, you're seeing a trend.
You might save someone's day too if you,
Yeah.
you don't need it.
Yeah, but also just remembering to, if you are doing goose or shot blocks or anything like that, to take them with plenty of water, because you do not want that icky, tacky taste in your mouth for the next couple of miles. So a little bit of water before, kind of swish it around, have your goo, follow up with a little bit of water. I just find it helps to kind of settle everything.
Egg sandwich, right away. All the fixins, even bacon, no cheese though. And then bagel, peanut butter, banana in the Athletes Village, goo on the course, and my sister always comes in at mile 18 with, what are they called? Sport beans, I'm looking for them there. Yeah, yeah. And she gives them to me one at a time. Eat this. But I wouldn't eat anything you didn't eat before your long runs in training.
Definitely test it out. Yeah, for me it's peanut butter and banana sandwich first thing, and then I packed a peanut butter sandwich, had that on the bus, and then I didn't have coffee, and I'm a major coffee addict, and I saved that for like one of the higher octane, Roctane goos before I started the race. I think on my walk over to the starting line, and then every time I took a goo at those times, I would do it a little differently where I wouldn't have water before. I would kind of suck the whole thing down once I could see the the water stop at the mile marker where I'm going to take the stuff in. I would down the whole thing, and then you want to make sure you get at least 6 to 8 ounces of water, or 6 to 8 ounces of water with your goose to help it digest and make sure that you don't cramp or anything like that. So it's definitely important to do it with water. Yes, Alex?
So where would be a strategic place to get stuff from families? Or, because I'm running a charity, I'm gonna actually wear a fez after. Where can I get that? Where would I tell them to the station?
You want it at the end? You want to finish with it, or you want it along the course?
Along the course, which will not pose as a security risk. It's do they allow?
People can get just about anything they. I mean, within reason, they should be able to get up to the edge. Just be a little. They need to be a little bossy for a second, get you what you need. But they should be able to track you, but sometimes fails. But you should be able to get just about, as long as you're west of, Kenmore, you can pretty much, like the first 24 miles, you can usually get to the edge with some.
And I hear family members can track you now through an app.
Yeah, they should be able to. Sometimes it crashes, so it might be a little late. So it can be a good starting point, but sometimes throughout the race, and I'm sure you guys have found that. It can lose you, but you're fine and you're on the course. But people following you might not have exact up-to-date information. So as long as they have a sense of your timing, it's probably better for you to give them one time you think you might pass that mileage marker, and then use that as their primary guide. Worst case, they're going to be there on time or a little early, and then the worst case would be it takes you a little longer. But they can be in position at least.
Yeah, and make sure that you know what they're wearing as well as they know what you're wearing.
Yeah.
It's so obvious to be like, here's my race day outfit, check it out. But it would also be helpful, okay, I'm looking for mom in her, hot pink hat or whatever.
On a certain side of the course.
Yes.
Definitely need to know
Yeah.
they're going to be on your left or your right. And
Yep.
run on that side.
Go, Steven?
So I'm curious, especially for those of you who have run other marathons, relative to those, there's a lot of excitement that comes with Boston. The atmosphere may be very different from other races. Are there any of those more exciting aspects that if you're not conscious about them may become like rude surprises, and you might get too excited about something and waste energy, or forget that you need to do something?
Do you want to be smooshed or not? Just think about that before you go past Wellesley.
I did not. The screen tunnel, I was like, this is so loud and so annoying. I am going to run so far on the other side of the street that I'm not in that mess.
But their signs are funny.
The signs are great.
I just couldn't believe the guys sprinting over there. I was like, We're running a pretty good pace. I was like, you're just going to stop now?
Wait, what is it?
The Wellesley Stream Tunnel, Wellesley College, the all-women's university there, it's very loud screaming, and then a lot of people go over
You
and
can hear it like a mile.
kiss the gals.
I actually saw, I don't know if anybody else has seen this, but I saw this thing floating around where you can actually
Saw that.
do, like, request a sign for the Scream Tunnel
Yeah.
online right now, so you enter what you want on your sign and they'll make it for you, so, yeah.
I don't think there are any rude surprises.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all.
I would say there's nothing bad about a party, and it often feels like party the whole way.
Yeah.
So stay calm. Don't let yourself get caught up in everything that's
The
going on.
biker bar early on is pretty intense, and it can.
With the band outside,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so, or like I feel like if you're going out too fast, you might get.
that's true. You can get hyped up by it. There's a band fairly early.
BC smells like beer.
Definitely smells like beer.
And do some high fives, but don't do too many. But pay attention to the spectators. It's fun.
Yeah.
It really that keeps me going. It's amazing.
I think people get tired after running 20 miles or 22 miles. We're all tired, and your fellow runners on the course are more likely to be irritable. People are more likely to like want you out of their way, or you're more likely, you might surprise yourself, like get out of my way. But I think you just have to realize you're all tired and you're all just trying to get to the finish line.
Any question?
Yeah, you talked about this a little bit, but I was curious about the mental side of it. So for your longer long runs, like 20 miles, or I'm not sure if you ever go longer than that, I'm curious what your pace difference is compared with your marathon goal pace, and also how you kind of like overcome the mental aspect of it. Like during the marathon, when you say like, I'm going to be running at a faster pace than I typically run, and I know I can hold this for 26 miles.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is going by feel, so I don't know. I don't think I really head into any weekend thinking, like, this is going to be my pace, and if I don't stick to this, like, it's over. And especially as we've seen with all the weather the past couple weekends, like, I think you need to be comfortable with adjusting your plan, even as of that morning. And, I mean, this past Saturday, like, Jason was with us, like, we had a whole group, and I think we headed out and just kind of thought, like, it's 12 degrees and it's 6:30 in the morning, and like none of us really want to be out here. We're just going to take this and see how it feels, and kind of, feel out the first 10K or so, and then go from there. And I think you have to be okay with that. Like, if you set yourself up for something unrealistic, or even if you just, you have to manage expectations, right? So set yourself up to feel it out, and then kind of take it from there.
Yeah, for me, a lot of my training runs, as I call them discovery distances, the first time I run 16, 18, I wouldn't put a time goal on those, and personally they were around 6:40 to 6:50, which was not what I wanted to run Boston in, but it was a discovery distance, and I just wanted to feel it out and be successful at finishing that distance. And I knew I was running hard Tuesdays, hard Thursdays, easy days in between, with some lifting, and that's all adding up. It's all in the legs. And then times when I would come down, when the mileage came down to 10 or 13, if I felt good, I'd push it a little bit. If I didn't, I would just relax and not really wear a watch, just hit the distance. And then for the longest long run, the way I approached it was I went 5 miles warming up, 10 miles at what I was hoping my marathon goal pace was, or a little quicker, and then if I had it, I went a little quicker for the last 5. And it averaged out to around where I was hoping to run the marathon, and I just felt like that was a pretty good window, but that wasn't a year that I was very healthy, so that's not always going to be the case. It depends how you feel, but that was, I felt like, my best execution, where there were runs that were not close to what I would expect to run the marathon, or were close but a little off, like they were 20 seconds slow, basically. But race day adrenaline is a very real thing. There's a lot of energy around the Boston Marathon. There's nothing like it relative to any of the training runs you're doing. It's not the same to go out with 10 people and run 20 miles. Even if 10 friends is better than doing it by yourself by a lot, but it's still not running the Boston Marathon. The level of energy in your body and feeling that experience is something you need to control, and then also something you need to allow to empower your best running, and then, like Ellen said, lean back on your training bank and know that it's all there. So it doesn't need to be your marathon goal pace. There's a lot that comes together to create that. So, does that help?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
I have two questions.
Okay.
One, at the beginning, when it's pretty crowded, does that last a long time where you can't just like slip out? I feel like that would kind of get frustrating, especially if you're really hyped up and stuff. How do you kind of deal with that at the beginning when it's all crowded? And
I think you already dealt with it. You know it's gonna be crowded.
Yeah.
It just is. It doesn't last forever.
Yeah, I think,
How long does it last?
depends where you are.
Yeah,
Fair point. Very fair point.
no, even where I am, it thins out pretty quickly where you're not going to be tripping. The first, maybe the first 100 yards, people will be also throwing sweatshirts or gloves. Be careful and don't trip on something, and watch your feet. But after that, you can probably run your pace. You'll see some people running along, the dirt side of the road trying to scoot around. Don't do that. Just
Yeah, Amanda Nurse, the studio coach and Heartbreaker here, she and I did an event on Monday, and she talked about her experience qualifying for Boston out of the charity way. So she ran for the Dana-Farber team for her first Boston and qualified that year for the following year. And she had mentioned that you just have to roll with it. Don't try to go around people because you're just adding miles and you're adding taxing exercises that you didn't train. If you didn't train your runs like this, it's not the best thing to do your first 2 miles like that, So you gotta just understand, take advantage of the slow pace and know that it's probably going to empower a better finish.
And it's also with the tendency to want to go out fast, sometimes it's probably good for you, to be honest. It's a built-in, okay, I gotta take this a little easier, and you're probably gonna look down at your watch and be like, oh, I'm actually kind of where I should be.
Another question you had?
My second part was just, imagine maybe you've probably run in the rain before, and in the case that does decide to rain, what tips do you have in terms to not get uncomfortable?
I have two.
We're in 2013, yeah.
Yeah.
No, 2015?
15 was rainy and 16 was hot. Yeah.
15.
A hat with a bill, and you're waterproof. Yeah, I think the dry socks thing, definitely, even if you don't end up using them, just dry pair of socks in a Ziploc baggie. I did that in 2015, and I didn't end up using them, but I liked knowing if things get really bad. I mean, blisters happen when it's that wet, well, except for you.
No blisters
You're
then either.
super. I don't know.
Lied,
Yeah, but just having them in a little Ziploc bag, I was just it's gonna be okay because I have those stashed away.
What did you wear on your upper body that year? Anything?
Sleeves and gloves.
Well, I mean, beyond a singlet. Did you wear You didn't wear jackets or trash bags?
I wore a vest. Lightweight, windproof vest, and a lightweight long sleeve t-shirt.
Yeah, that was 50 and rainy that year. That was hard.
Did you put your bib under the vest, on your singlet, or on the
I put it on the vest.
it's going to be 60 and sunny. That's what I want. Two more for you.
He's the boss now. That many years, he's the boss. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Yep.
Just kind of touching back on breakfast and adrenaline. I don't know, I know you mentioned that you're a coffee drinker and Dan, you're a coffee drinker. Do you explicitly avoid caffeine on race days, specifically Boston being so such a big day? You don't. Dan, do you avoid caffeine?
No, definitely not. It's in all the Goose. It's in the Roctane. I take Roctane that day, so they have a higher caffeine count than regular Goo. So I definitely take advantage of caffeine. I was just unsure about my stomach handling coffee, even though I'm a big time coffee drinker. I think I may have taken the day before off of caffeine. I drank a little less coffee, so that way maybe I'd get a little bit more of a rush out of my Goo caffeine. But I am definitely, taking the Goos and excited to receive the caffeine content in there throughout the race. So that's every time I'm taking it, I'm getting, I can find it right here, right? How much caffeine am I getting? 35 milligrams, so I think a grande coffee is 70. So doing that right, so you can imagine it's a good amount of caffeine. I don't know.
So it's just more the digestion of the
I was worried about coffee just, making me have to go to the bathroom. I just didn't want to deal with that. I already, I feel like I'm used to competing, and I was still, before I compete, no matter what it is, if it's 800 or the marathon, I have to pee like 15 times just because I'm nervous, So and you have the challenge of Athletes Village. I didn't want to layer in the challenge of coffee. So that's the only reason why I didn't drink it. But the other thing is you're up so early, that, you can. It's really your own personal preference, but people definitely drink it.
Yeah, and even more reason to try this stuff out in your
Yeah.
long runs in the weekends before.
For sure.
Because you shouldn't, maybe you're not a coffee drinker at all. Race day, probably not the day to start. So just kind of dabble in different types of fuel and different kinds of caffeine intake and all that stuff. Get that out of the way on training runs. And then race day, you'll have a good plan, that you can rely on.
Yeah, a couple other notes just while we're talking about that stuff. If you're a caffeine person, there's Run Gum. That's not going to mess with your stomach. And it's just a caffeine shot. It's like taking a full serving of coffee. It's 100 milligrams for the 2 pieces. So it's 50 per piece. So that's another good thing to have in your pocket if you need it. And then there's this is SOS, and this is a hydration mix. So this will help you process the water that you're taking in. If you start to get that sloshing feeling, your body's just not absorbing the water properly, so something like this can really help. So this is something you may want to incorporate in your training in the next couple weeks if you haven't. This product I received a lot of positive feedback from, and I think it was just last year. Right? Last year was hotter than expected, and people were really dying by the time they got to mile 20. Some people felt great, but a lot of people didn't. And this really helped them replenish their electrolytes. So that's like purely electrolyte. That's not a nutritional supplement in the sense that it's providing calories and that kind of stuff. It's really just to help you absorb the water better. So those are other things that you can have in your pocket in case you get in trouble, but don't take up a lot of space, obviously, right? Other questions? Yes, Sam?
Have any of you entered a marathon after coming out of a recent injury? And if so, how did that affect your run or your strategy?
I didn't.
It's like you're back to it.
To be continued.
So I'm thinking about it now because I have a partial tear. If you know your muscles, this is called the adductor. I see adductor longus. So I'm thinking about actually possibly a run-walk, but I'm not sure. I'm going to try a couple of runs. I've had other injuries where I've used my runs before the marathon to figure out how I'm going to sort of compensate for the injury. But it's tricky. You have to be really careful because you don't want to really, create long-lasting damage. So depending on what the injury is, you may or may not be able to run. I'm a little stubborn. I probably I push it a little bit.
Yes.
Actually, going off injury, I actually have a foot injury. I have like a swollen tibialis tendon, I don't know. But so I've been out for like 3 weeks. So I've been having to like rest my foot. And I pushed it the first week. I was like, oh, it's fine. It's just my shoes. I'll get new sneakers. And it wasn't. So the doctor was like, good thing you came now because if you tore it, you would have to have surgery and you wouldn't be running. So definitely listen to your body on that.
Yeah.
Because
I think it's okay to go in and have an injury and know if you're undertrained that that's better than pushing to the point you're really injured and can't compete. So if you're a little undertrained, you have to slow down and have a backup plan. If it's a run walk or if it's just experiencing the race, it's a powerful day to be
it
a
was
part of.
actually that 60-degree day too.
Oh, really?
I hit the pavement. I'm like, I'm gonna do 9. I'm so excited. I'm like, ooh, doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Yes.
What you just said about potentially getting new sneakers reminded me of something. I'm doing Providence on May 7th, but my sneakers are feeling a little beat, and I'm nervous about starting a new pair. I know I still have some time, but I'm just nervous about starting a new pair. So I wanted to know what you guys thought about that. Is enough time? I shouldn't worry about breaking new shoes, or just alternate, or shorter runs with the new shoes, or what do you guys think about that?
And I recommend 3 pairs of shoes for a marathon training period. So there'd be new ones in there anyway, because if you're doing a 20-week program and you're running 30 miles a week, which is on the average side or low side even, that's how many? almost 300 miles in 4 months, in 4 weeks. Right? 600.
Very
Your
nice.
math says 600.
600.
Very good.
30 times 4, yeah. So you're gonna need a bunch of pairs of shoes. So don't be afraid. Get used to them. I like to run maybe 2 or 3 runs in the pair that I'm gonna race in, but then I like to give myself that new shoe advantage on race days, so that they feel fresh, they feel new. Because if they're feeling dead to you now, you'd run
And now I know they really are dead, because I,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you're feeling it that much, they're probably really dead. Yeah. So, yeah. That helps. You guys do it any differently?
Yeah, I think the alternating part is definitely key. I mean,
Yeah.
don't it's so fun to get new stuff, but don't wear them every single day right out of the box. Switch them on and off with your old ones, or maybe get a third or even a fourth
Yeah.
pair in the mix.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of adjust, and I think that's better for you anyway, right? To be kind of having a couple different types going.
Yeah, I think having shoes that are not the same model can be a helpful thing, so that your feet aren't working exactly the same way every day. You're just the flex patterns will be different, which will affect the way your foot is striking the ground and the way that your foot is stressed during the run. So I think that can be a really powerful tool, just to give certain parts of your foot a break and other parts some more support, and just shift around the workload so that you're engaging your foot in many different ways, because the sport is just so repetitive. That's all it is over and over and over and over. So anything you can do to just adjust those feelings, and it'll also help your shoes last a little bit longer. You'll have 2 pairs would last you as long as 2 pairs, but you'd have that fresh feeling a little longer for each one. So yeah, that's good tip.
So you can't tell that he sells running shoes.
We also sell running shoes. You can get 20% off tonight. 20% off store wide. Did I mention that? Any other questions, guys? Facebook here?
Yep. Christian has a question. What's the best way to simulate a downhill on the Newton Hills during your shorter training runs? What's the best way to train for the downhills?
With my team, I like to do downhill repeats. So we go up fairly easy and down hard. Nothing really trashes the legs like running downhill, and that's a skill. It's a learned skill. A lot of the elites, when they come to town, when they see the course and run the course, that's the first thing they'll say is, "I didn't realize how much downhill there is." And it's at the start of the course, as everybody knows and has heard. There's also an early hill in the beginning. There's a slight incline. So after I heard for years and years it's 4 miles downhill, I was surprised to see it wasn't just 4 miles. It wasn't just 4 miles downhill. I was going up fairly soon. But then it is a net down, and there is a really steep downhill, 15 or so, coming out of Wellesley. So you want to be aware of that, and you want to be able to run them well. So I think really learning to hit a workout with a lot of strong downhill repeats downhill. We run uphill repeats strong to build leg strength, leg speed, efficiency, and that's an important skill in training, or an important tool in training. As a skill in racing, you want to learn to slow down and let the hill come to you. And you'll be better at that for having run those strong hills in practice. And then you also want to learn how to run downhill efficiently. So really just hitting those downhill repeats are as important as hitting uphill repeats.
One more question from Steve, who has the Boston Marathon logo as his profile pic. He wants to know the best place to get a good traditional pasta dinner in the city.
Good traditional pasta dinner.
Make a reservation last month.
Well, there's the place in the South End, Giacomo's. It's gonna be busy, but Giacomo's in the South End. There's one in the North End. Luca Back Bay. Luca Back Bay would be a great spot. That's a larger restaurant. Italy and the Prudential would probably be a good spot. Yeah. Rico in the North End. Shout outs from all your Bostonians.
Anywhere in the North End.
Anywhere in the North End. As for red sauce.
Fresh pasta that you can buy in the little shops in the North End. So if you're staying in a place with a kitchen, I think that's you're still getting the fresh North End.
Any final questions? Final? Okay, well, I really want to thank our panelists. Give them a round of applause. Oh, I really liked you. So thanks for coming out, guys. Again, we're 20% off store-wide. Additional 20% off
Good luck, everyone.
sale items. Good luck with the training.